Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ecommerce Espresso. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Ecommerce Espresso is our webinar series that is shorter than your coffee break. Today I'm joined by Dan from Statement. Dan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dan Conboy, Managing Director of Statement. We're a Shopify Plus agency based in Leeds and London. Perfect,
thanks. So our first question for you, Dan, today is, with more customers shopping online and shopping around, we have seen 29% of marketers relocating their budgets from acquisition to retention. I'd love to hear your thoughts on merchants splitting their focus across both streams.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think it's always really tough for marketers to understand where to allocate budget. And, made even more difficult the fact that e-commerce is changing so rapidly. And of course, the recent events have made that even more dynamic than normal. So I think what's really important is to start with data analysis and to look at historic trends with regards to how customers have behaved historically, but that might be looking at things like year on year, but it might also be looking at more recent trends given what's happening in the marketplace as well. So I think fundamentally looking at that data analysis will hopefully help you to get some sense of what investment you might want to consider for returning customers. So what budget you might want to put around retention for things like promotions, discounts. You might want to do specific offers for existing customers. And of course, there's a cost to providing that. Depending on the size of the company, we find that, smaller merchants might be a little bit more kind of unplanned or dynamic with that, but bigger merchants will have retention budgets. So they'll be estimating what commercial impact that promotion or that discount will have in terms of the kind of profit and loss. So I think looking at budgets for retention, but then equally looking at, well, what are the current customer acquisition costs? So again, this is going to be dynamic. It's going to depend on what else is going on in the market. It's going to depend from channel to channel. But then getting a sense of how much do you expect it to cost to acquire that customer should hopefully give you a view of being able to model some scenarios around what levels of spend do you need to meet your targets for the Q4 period. And then, fundamentally, that to me is kind of a real good starting point. The other consideration as well is looking at average spend. So for example, if a returning customer is likely to spend more than a new customer, that may well be a kind of an element to consider around how much percentage you put in kind of existing versus new. And I think hopefully that kind of assessment should direct how much time is spent across each stream and what resources that are needed. In many cases, they're going to be an internal investment. So that's your team, the amount of, kind of people you've got available. But then you might also want to consider some agency support to fill or support any gaps that you might have internally as well. So I know it's always, every single e-commerce team I work with, it doesn't matter if the brand's a really small brand, or a really big brand, they never seem to have enough people in their e-commerce team. So I think internal resources are always limited, and being wise and making wise decisions about time and budget allocation, is really important. So I think, for me, the summary really is that starting with analysis, developing plans for each group, thinking really carefully and creatively about which initiatives you want to develop for each. I think online it's no doubt we're expecting record years for many of our clients this year, given the fact that more retail has shifted online. But I think with that will come a higher level of competition. So I think it's going to be even more important to be focused this year and equally to be doing things that are perhaps a little bit different and a bit more interesting as well.
Yeah, I really like your point on the sort of time management side of things there. I think I mentioned this in the last Ecommerce Espresso that I filmed, but one of the most common challenges we hear marketers talk about is lack of time. So sort of taking a step back, looking at your data, sort of working out where it is best to focus your time and efforts is definitely great advice for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from a Shopify perspective as well, looking at what you can automate. So tools like Shopify Flow, Shopify Launchpad are there to try to automate some of these tasks as well. Mm-hmm. So when you're considering your plans, consider what tools you have available within your platform, within your third-party tools as well. to be able to set up automations, which might then free up time for perhaps things that can't be automated too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of those things where marketers will sort of always struggle between acquisition and retention, and sort of how they can spend their time between those two.
Yeah.
Perfect. So that sort of brings me on to my next question, which is, before we know it, Black Friday, Cyber Monday will be around the corner. What are your top 3 tips for merchants currently building out their strategies?
Yeah, well, another bit of a boring one, but data again. Looking at actually what happened last year. I think for me, it always starts with data, and the people in your business that understand data and can understand analytics and can actually get their head into a spreadsheet are absolutely invaluable. There are great tools available to help to kind of humanize that as well if you're not a kind of Excel guru. But fundamentally, looking at the data and getting a sense of what's happening. I would say, again, that's got to be taken into context with, yes, look at it last year, but has the recent change in consumer behavior changed what you expect is going to happen this year? If you're in a business that's a bit more trends driven, it might be what happened last year is not relevant this year. So you've got to add data with some nous and also some kind of commercial analysis in terms of interpreting that data. Most brands will have started to do this, hopefully. Most people that we work with will have been doing that in the summer, if not earlier. But fundamentally, it's then making sure that analysis is then linked to your inventory forecast, making sure that the stock that you're purchasing is fundamentally going to be in line with what you expect the sales are going to be linked to as well. So I think that's a really important point. I think that the second area for me is around promotions, and being really, really careful about promotions. So yes, looking at data from previous years should be a starting point, what promotions were most successful, but also considering things like the timing of those promotions. When do you start those promotions? And actually, what's the structure of that promotional activity? So is it a flat percentage discount? Is it, or is it things that are a bit more intelligent, like driving up average order value by offering a free gift with minimum purchase? Going back to the point around returning versus new, do you offer extra incentives for existing customers? That in turn could be a lever to try to encourage sales before peak, because you could be saying, well, look, if you become a member of our loyalty program, or if you become a customer now, you'll get access first to the first round of offers or deals or promotions before everyone else. So it's kind of linking in what you might do towards Black Friday, Cyber Monday with what you could potentially benefit from now as well, and thinking about it in an integrated approach. And then the other point I was thinking about as well is that, look, we expect more retail sales are going to be conducted online this year because of what's happening. So, on one hand, you could argue it's going to be more competitive, but the other thing is, do you need to be as aggressive on promotions? Will the demand be there more naturally? So I don't think, unfortunately, there's going to be a kind of a magic wand for this. I think it's a case of weighing up the scenarios and considering. This is going to flex from brand to brand. We have clients who never do promotional activity. We have clients that do loads of promotional activity. So it's about what's right for your brand and your market as well, I would say. And the final point was around good old customer experience. Everyone gets very excited about the sales and the revenue, and that's really, really brilliant to see when those sales are ticking in. But at the heart of, I think, great retail is about delivering a brilliant customer experience. And for me, that's considering that end-to-end journey for the customer. So it's thinking about, at the heart of it, website uptime and speed, making sure that the website is going to perform very well with that increased traffic, making sure you have the right stock available. There's nothing worse than running out of a key line. That's going to lead to loads of disappointed customers. So going back to basics with data, order fulfillment, are your systems set up and geared up to be able to deal with that uplift in volume? And things like customer service. Do you have the right customer service infrastructure, whether that be the right amount of people in customer service, the right channels, so offering support with live chat, perhaps Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp? Are you providing a robust customer service, because you will probably experience an uplift in queries. There's a role for perhaps automation there. You can use help desk tools like Zendesk, Gorgeous, which can help you to address some of those queries in an automated fashion. But at the heart of it, you are going to still need people. Have you got the right people available to be able to offer that great experience? And I think the reason for this is, and why I think customer experience is important, particularly around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, is that it actually brings you a great opportunity to engage with new customers for the first time. So you want that experience to be really positive, but equally for your existing customers, they've come back to you for a reason, and you want to maintain and exceed that standard so you retain their business and become those advocates that you're seeking for them to become. So my advice there is really think about the operations, think about road testing and modeling your plans. Consider, can you deal with that volume? Look at last year, see what happened last year, and then factor in the growth that you're expecting, and really, kind of do a test run if you can, so that you can be confident as you go into that peak that you're going to deliver the service that you expect. So yeah, hopefully data, promotional planning, customer experience, they're the key things from my side.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see a theme in your answers of looking back at the data, which I couldn't agree with more. I also really like your point on this is going to be the first time that you sort of are in contact with a lot of these customers, and it's a great way to sort of get them onto your loyalty program and incentivize them to come back and return again. So remember to sort of reach out to them after they've made that purchase with free shipping or points, something that will encourage them to come back and make that all important second purchase as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of, considering the different opportunities throughout the season, isn't it? Because, someone's bought from you quite early on in November, there's still more opportunity to capture further orders through the right incentives and the right automations. Someone's buying really lastminute.com, then, they might want something different. They might want free express shipping. They might want, there might be something extra that they need to secure that order. So it's understanding what the customer needs at that point. And again, that comes down to that kind of planning. And ultimately, a lot of that opportunity is correlated with how much bandwidth the team have to think and to analyze and to strategize. So starting early is always a good thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And then the final question for today is, how can loyalty help drive success during the peak period? We've sort of touched on this a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, loyal customers drive revenue, but they also drive advocacy. So I think fundamentally there's a link between having loyal customers who are really, really happy, and actually that can support new customer acquisition, because we all know that if you kind of tell your friends that you've had a great experience with a brand, there's a really high likelihood that they'll look at that brand and potentially consider becoming a customer. So fundamentally, I think it goes back to for me, for customer experience. If your brand's wholly focused on delivering that really great experience, and there's sufficient rewards and there's plans to incentivize retention, then actually peak can be a really great opportunity to drive record revenues. But it can also help you to create a whole new legion of fans if the experience stacks up. So it does go back to those fundamentals of planning and thinking about what does that customer need at that point. But there's no doubt, for us, we constantly talk to clients about the importance of loyalty and analysing return customer rate, and just having the bandwidth to think about what they can do to try to reduce to increase the likelihood rather of a customer coming back, because it's so much easier, as you say, to keep customers than to try to keep driving new ones. And it's I think the final point for me around loyalty is that there are great tools like LoyaltyLion, of course, that are part of that piece of loyalty. But at the heart of it, if you offer great service to a customer and you meet their expectations, that in itself is a massive way to keep a customer happy and to keep them coming back. So I think not underestimating the importance of service and that end-to-end experience is a key part of having success at peak, but also having success into 2021 as well and beyond.
Yeah, no, I really like that point. Something to add to that is there's so many, players in the mix at this time. So really trying to build a connection with your loyal customers is a great way of doing it as well. So sort of like showing the brand values, showing what you believe in as a brand is also a great way to build a connection around this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, that is all we have time for, unfortunately. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Remember, if you have any questions, you can tweet us at our Twitter, and then also this recording will be sent via email tomorrow. So a big thank you to Dan for joining us today.
Thanks. Great to be here.
And we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ecommerce Espresso. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more of these short but insightful webinars, you can catch all of our previous episodes over on our YouTube channel. Just search for LoyaltyLion. Before you go, why not see if you can identify the gaps in your loyalty strategy that are costing you the most with our retention score sheet. You can see how your approach matches up with our downloadable tool over on LoyaltyLion.com/retention score sheet. That's LoyaltyLion.com/retention score sheet with no spaces. We'll see you soon for our next Ecommerce Espresso.